thank you all for being here so early. I just wanted to start by saying last night and yesterday we had wonderful presenters, and there was a question that was asked of us by Amani, who was, she's African-American spoken word poet, and led us in very, I think, quite deep and challenging questions for ourselves as activists and as human beings walking on the planet and trying to look at our potential. So one of the questions she asked was, what is reality? And some folks said, well, it's something that I taste, I smell, I see, and I feel. And so when it came time for me to answer the question, I added, and spirit. Spirit. And that's the theme that I want to use in today's talk. I remember the phrase, not by power, not by might, but by spirit. So, and I add, my 5 siblings and I lost our mother Mom passed this past April. So I just want to say, I feel her spirit with us today, and so often and also many of the elders on whose shoulders we stand. So I hold Mom, and Mom's holding us. She was a good, an amazing activist herself. So I am Marianne, and so I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Mohawk people whose stolen land we are sitting on today, right here. And also, they were the keepers of the eastern door of the Haudenosaunee, or the Iroquois Confederacy, made up of the 5 nations, the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, whose land I live on in Ithaca, and the Seneca. And then the Tuscarora were added to the Confederacy later on. And I also would like to acknowledge Kateri Tekaletha, who grew up here and who blesses each gathering that happens here. So what is shared here and the work that's before us, and each of us that's gathered here, is sacred. And I believe that all of creation is sacred. And it's from that awareness that I feel that we're called to do the work of equity and justice. And from that will flow peace. I so appreciated the messages of affirmation from Amani last night, and also from Father Mark, who's sitting in the back with us. And I loved your quote of talking about how our work takes patience and persistence, or persistence and patience, and not in white people's time, but in the time of First Nation people's time. Or another way of looking at it would be the Kairos time, that may be more familiar with those of us. So, John kind of stole my thunder with some of the lines. I'm a grandma. I have 4 grown children, and then I have 3 little grandkids. The oldest is turned 9 last week. And yes, I did a little bit of jail time, 49 days, same kind of stuff that Ed Canan and many other people have done. But I did it because I was taking pictures from the roadway. How many of you know about my story? Just so I don't become redundant. So there's a lot of you that don't. Okay, so I'll just go into it a little bit. So John mentioned that we had orders of protection, and so I had one of these orders of protection for, or on behalf of the colonel of the military base, who took the order out, or requested the order before, when we had done previous action the year before I was arrested this time. And so I was very willing not to do the action, but to be a support person. So I was taking photos. And there were 8 people doing the action on an Ash Wednesday, 2013, back in February. And among the 8 was one Catholic. There were mostly Catholics, one Catholic. Latendra was a Quaker Catholic. And so all were protesting in the air base where we go to protest the MQ-9 Reaper drone, which is piloted from there, But the drones themselves are not parked there. I mean, there are some there because that's it had been the largest training and maintenance center for drones in the country. I don't know whether that's been surpassed by another base, but anyway. But the drones that are piloted and operated from Hancock, which, by the way, is on the back side of Syracuse Airport. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the Google map the other day to get to the base for a vigil, and I realized there is on the Google map, it only shows the airport. It doesn't mention that there's a military base on the back side of the same campus. So, anyway, but the drones themselves are parked and flown in Afghanistan, Yemen, Iraq, Somalia, Pakistan, and the other countries in the Middle East. And they are assassinating brown people, perpetuating the racist U.S. policy abroad, which mirrors what's being done to black people here in the United States. So all 8, Linda, my sister Ellen, a couple of priests and others, they were all acquitted because they were able to talk about their intent, because they had a disorderly conduct charge, which is just a little violation. It's like a parking violation. Max time is 14 days in jail. You only do a few days, maybe 7 or 10. But you all spoke to your intent to uphold law because there are war crimes going on from within the base. There's assassinations and so on. And so the judge, the other judge, not Judge Gideon, who's got it out for me, heard that intent. He said, I don't hear any malice here. And so I respect that, and I find you not guilty of, so they were there to uphold law. So I was taking the photos from the street, and because I had an order of protection, I supposedly violated the order by crossing the double yellow line in the middle of the road, and violating this requested order on behalf of a man that I've never met, I've never heard of. I didn't know who the guy was. I could not have identified him if I rolled into the gas station next to him. So my sentence was reduced to 6 months after my first appeal that I lost, and I did 49 days in jail at the local county jail, a correctional facility, and then I was released on $5,000 bail, and I had 65 days left. And I was released on bail because my mom was near passing. So I got to spend a good month with my siblings caring for her. So before going into my talk, there's a few things that I wanted to share of happenings and opportunities for you to participate in things which would be about opposing the killer drones. So first there's TV ads that are being aired near bases, drone bases. One area would be the Syracuse area, and another would be the Buffalo area where Charlie Bowman and Ann are living. So these ads are inviting drone operators to leave their jobs, leave their posts because of their conscience. The Air Force is having a hard time retaining operators and pilots because they're expected to do flight times which are way beyond what a normal pilot flying a plane would be doing. And because of this stress, many are succumbing to PTSD, and also because of the nature of the work. I mean, these guys are looking at computer screens, sitting in a computer room, salon, inside Hancock Air Base or Creech Air Force Base and other places. And according to The Intercept, has anyone heard of The Intercept? You know of it? Okay. I would highly recommend that you make a note of The Intercept and look it up and read it on a regular basis, because it's one of the rare places of pure truth coming through. So according to The Intercept, in a 5-month period of 2015, just last year, 90% of those that have been targeted and killed, assassinated by drones, were civilian bystanders, many of them children. And Nick Modern, who is our dear friend who's done incredible work, he's from Hastings, New York, down the Hudson here. He estimates that approximately 6,000 people have been killed by drones, killer drones. And this is very contradictory to the statement that Obama made, naming 116, what was the figure?
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. So some of the drone operators are becoming whistleblowers, and there are 4 well-known whistleblowers, but there's at least 10 now. And our prayer and hope and our work is to try to entice them to come out and to know that they would be supported if they came out. And they do so at great risk. They do so with great courage. And so we want to hold them, and we want to try to figure out our messaging so that it fits, so that they understand that they are welcomed. So you'll be hearing from Chris Antle later today. He is one of those whistleblowers. So to find out more about the ad campaign, the TV ad campaign, it's costing $12,000, and in order to contribute to the ad, go to the No Drones. That's KNOW. Do we know whose phone it is? Okay, if everybody could turn off their cell phone, that'd be great. So the nodrones.com, not .org, but .com.
Drones with an S.
KNOWDRONES, right? Nodrones.com. Or speak to me afterwards, or speak to Ed and Ann. So the second thing that I'd like to alert everybody to is the fact that the New York State Fair has simulator computer salons for drone piloting that children and adults come in and try out. But mind you, when you think about it, there's a sign that says you can't bring weapons into the New York State Fair. Go figure. So, Ann, our dear sister here, Ann McMahon, Ann has worked tirelessly on getting a petition together. The petition is available today to ask Governor Cuomo to get rid of the drone, the 174th Attack Fighter Wing of Hancock Air Base to be removed from the State Fair. It's not child-friendly and adult-friendly to go and practice extrajudicial killing from inside the State Fair. So also watch for it in your emails and send it out on your lists or Facebook, etc. Also, you're invited to join us, Ed and Ann and others and myself, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, starting on August 29th, that's the Monday, the 31st is the Wednesday, and then September 2nd and the 4th. We'll be at the main gate, and we'll be doing flyering, and we need people. We need warm bodies to get the word out.
Main gate of the fair?
Of the fair, of the State Fair, yes. Not of the base, but of the State Fair. And we'll have flyers, and we'll have the petition there. Third is that there are vigils twice a month that these dear folks have been witnessing since when? 2009? 10, okay. So for many years, they've been stalwarts of getting out there in Syracuse in the cold weather, and then, of course, the extreme heat. So, and then there's also more actions coming up, or what we call civil resistance. Because as happened in Linda's trial, we believe wholeheartedly that what we're doing at our witnesses is upholding law, sounding the alarm to say there are war crimes going on from inside the base. And so we go there to uphold law, not to break law. So we call it civil resistance, not civil disobedience. This is a distinction there. And I think that term would be wonderful if we translated that for other movements as well, like the fracking movement, because we're holding the sacredness of our water. You know, we're working towards that, and that's our right. That's not something, we're not. Anyway, we can talk about that another time. So, just remember that we as a community are here together to confront the politics of fear. So moving right along, so I want to begin by reading a part of an email from our peace activist friend Brian Terrell, who's been here to present right here at the center, who, by the way, sends his greeting to you and John and everyone here. He was on trial yesterday, and his email, I think, speaks directly to our theme, combating the fears, the politics of fear. So he was on trial yesterday for going to the gates of Volk Air Force Base, which is in Wisconsin. The Shadow drone is piloted from Volk, and the Shadow drone is accompanied by Apache helicopters. And so they are doing the actual flying. You know, the operators sit in Wisconsin, but the flying happens out of the Middle East. So Brian and Kathy Kelly from Voices in the Wilderness went up to the gate of the base with a loaf of bread and a statement for the base commander, and they were turned away. So Brian was tried for trespass to land. Initially, the charges were higher. They were facing 18 months in jail and a $20,000 fine, and all of that was lowered. But in the July 25th reply to a request by Brian for documents under the Open Records Law and for an explanation for apparently inflated charges and other police responses to the demonstration on February 23rd, Juneau County Undersheriff Craig anyway, alleged threats made by a participant against police officers there. So the quote from the Sheriff's Department was that law enforcement officers are being targeted in the United States by hate groups because they stand for law and order. Law enforcement officers are being executed by these hate groups at an alarming rate, and it does not appear to be slowing down. As a matter of fact, you had a person attend your protest at Camp Douglas who has threatened to kill our deputies. This is the claim. Not sure if that person is a regular member of your group or just shows up from time to time. So in the reply to Suchlik, Brian noted that the whole purpose of our protest against the role of the Shadow drone in targeted assassinations by personnel trained at Volk Field is to oppose killing or the threats of killing or violence against anyone, anywhere, and for any purpose or justification whatsoever. So because we are so strongly opposed to all violence and political killings of any kind, it's highly improbable or improper for you to imply by innuendo or otherwise that Voices for Creative Nonviolence and Wisconsin Coalition to Ground the Drones and End the Wars are hate groups. That's that target police officers for execution. Further, planting the suspicion that we have among us a person who would so violate the spirit and the purpose of our organization as to openly threaten violence, even to the point of murder, without identifying that person to us, looks like an assault, another assault on our groups. The actions of the Sheriff's Department, he said, show a disturbing pattern in Juneau County. They bring to mind the chilling effects of McCarthyism of the 50s and the COINTELPRO activities of the FBI in the 60s. And there is a reasonable appearance that the Juneau County Sheriff's Department is deliberately acting to discourage citizens from exercising their rights to peaceably assemble. He was last night, and he said that at the end of the trial, where no police officers were called, they were told to go away, because Brian would have cross-examined or direct-examined them on these issues, and they didn't want to be embarrassed. So, because they don't have an answer for this. So, the maximum fine was $200. For some reason, the judge fined him $236. And then the judge ran out of the room, because he didn't want to talk, and he didn't want to hear a final statement from Brian. So a similar fear tactic was used at Hancock, which I'll speak to in a minute. So I just want to say, I know some of you had heard that I was the grandmother that was, protesting drones, but I just want to say that I'm one of among thousands, including many grandmothers in many countries, for demonstrating against killer drones around the world since 2005. So over the last 6 years, thousands have demonstrated and vigiled in front of at least 13 of the 65 U.S. drone bases. And by the way, the Air Force plans on building 110 bases, killer drone bases, in the next couple of years, including opening the one I think it's this fall, am I correct?
We're not sure yet, but
Okay.
they're at least going to be flying drones up to Fort Drum from that.
And at Niagara?
Niagara Falls,
Okay.
the wedding capital of the world. So.
Isn't that amazing? So talk to Charlie about the details of that particular drone situation. So we have we've had over 1,000 people vigiling and demonstrating right at Hancock, and some of us are repeat offenders or repeat vigilers. So, and there, as John had us do, we stood, there were those of us that stood up that have been there, part of the witness. So my arrest was one of 172 people arrested at Hancock. And some of us, as in the case of Linda, have been found not guilty. So I'm not going to ask you to stand up because that was done already. So here's the other example of the military trying to shut us down with fear. So there were 50 of us over a period of different actions. Initially, 17 of us were given these orders of protection on behalf of the colonel, who we'd never seen out at the gate or anything. The guy was totally unknown. So on behalf of either Colonel Semmel or Colonel Evans of Hancock Drone Base. So this prevented us from exercising our First Amendment rights, protected, let me reread this. Our First Amendment protected right to ask our government to redress our grievance, specifically to end the killer drone program, which violates our Constitution and international law. So raise your hand if you have an OOPS. We call them OOPS, the Orders of Protection. Call them OOPS for short.
Or if you had one.
If you've had one or have one. Okay. All right. So there are many, including my sister Claire, Grady, Martha Hennessy, who's Dorothy Day's granddaughter, Joan Plume, who, by the way, was a part of the Freedom Rides back in the 60s, Bev Rice, James Ricks, and what we understand to be improperly applied orders of protection. And so some of their trials are waiting until my case has been determined. But we do have a date, what is it, November 29th. Okay. So the attorney, there's a group of attorneys, a team of attorneys that are fighting this. And I learned just yesterday, day before yesterday, that the final appeal brief has to be submitted on October 14th of this year for my case to the New York State Court of Appeals. But I'm the only one that was nabbed unintentionally violating OOPS. Oops. It was
Allegedly.
right, allegedly. So it was in the evening of February 13th when I was being taken out in handcuffs that I first learned of what the base boundary was. So I'm a kid that grew up in the Bronx. I lived in a building. I moved to Ithaca 20 years ago. I lived in downtown Ithaca. My property line goes out to the sidewalk. I can't even claim where I put the garbage pails, So as I was leaving the court in handcuffs, I heard our fellow protester, Mark Harbour, ask the judge, "So where's the base boundary?" He said, "The double yellow line in the middle of the road." I'd never heard of that. So, and if you look at the photos that I took of the 8, I was out in the roadway. All 8 of the folks were out beyond that white line you pull up to at a stop sign? Well, they were all out beyond the stop sign. The white line. And because it was Ash Wednesday, they had poured a little dribble of ashes on the ground symbolically out in front of them. And I was out beyond that with my back to the traffic. And this is all on tape. You can see the police camcord or whatever. So anyway, so I've been out since March 7th on $5,000 bail, as you heard, to accompany Mom. And the case will be heard, the appeals case, now this is the second appeal, will be heard sometime, this maybe from January on into the spring. We don't know when, but. And I learned that the court only takes about 3% of all the cases that are presented to them, similar to the to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the reason that they took this case was because there was an earlier appeal, and we were turned down. And yet another of our many drone resistors his attorney took another appeal down the hall from where my judge was, at the county court level in downtown Syracuse. Both judges, down the hall from each other, came up with different decisions. The fellow Judge Bernetti said on behalf of Dan Finley, the orders of protection are invalid because they don't delineate how close or far. It doesn't say you have to be 100 feet away, or, it's just vague. So, but yet my judge, Miller, said, yes, the colonel is, you have to be a victim or a witness to be, eligible for an order of protection to be given on your behalf. So, Colonel Evans, during my initial trial, said that no, he didn't know me, he never spoken to me, he's not afraid of me. That was just a piece of paper. That basically, he just wants to keep the protesters away from his face. So the appeal specifically says you can't take an order of protection out on behalf of a military base. It's on behalf of property. So similar to the sheriff at Volk in Wisconsin, the attempt is to shut down our protests to the real crimes perpetrated from Hancock. Assassinations which are determined every Tuesday, by the way, by Obama and his team. And so we call it Kill Tuesday. And how many of you are aware of that happens? Okay, a few. So there's wars of aggression. These are some of the laws that are being broken. And by the way, our U.S. Constitution says that all treaties and protocols that we've signed on to are supreme law or part of the supreme laws of our land. And so our Constitution signs on to international law. These are some of the laws that are being broken. Wars of aggression, an attack, as the name 174th Attack Fighter Wing implies. Violations to due process. You don't kill people with no trial. I was given the luxury of a trial. Sovereignty laws. For example, we're not at war in Pakistan, and yet we go into Pakistan and assassinate people. Let's see, we violate, Ramsey Clark was asked why he works against drones, and he mirrors our sentiment, and he said, I do it for the children. So I wear this blue scarf remembering the children of Afghanistan. They sent us a bolt of this fabric to remind us of the blue skies that they dream of. It turns out that drones cannot operate under gray skies. So the children are afraid of the blue skies. And so we go out and try to do what we can on behalf of the children. So that they can go outside and play under blue skies with no fear. So I know we don't have very many minutes left before 10, and I see Chris has arrived. So I want to give time for the Q&A. Folks have questions. I think I'll not share about my jail experience, but just to say that if I have to go back to jail, I'm ready. And this whole experience has really helped me overcome some of my own fears. And as I went through the process, I felt carried by grace to go into the jail. And I went with huge, huge privilege. Privilege by having people that would come and visit me. I had resources. I was able to make phone calls. I had commissary money. And I knew that my mom was okay because my sisters were home caring for her. She and I had a conversation before I went in, and she said, go for it. And I told her, if you have to go, Mom, just come visit me. come visit me in jail. She said, I will. So that was great. So just to mention that I know where I'll be if I have to go back in. I know the women, the guards, the chaplains, the routine, and that I've learned that Syracuse is one of the top 5 cities in the U.S. with the most impoverished pockets within a city. And it's people from those pockets who are housed at the Onondaga County Jail. So blacks, First Nation people. My bunkie was a Chippewa, Tuscarora, Onondaga, Sioux, Oneida, Latinos, and poor whites. And many women from the LGBT community are there, housed. Those that are the marginalized people, that's who's there. And the county jail houses between 600 to 1,000 folks. And the guards have been working without a contract for the last 4 years. So the routine can be deadening to the body and to the soul. And I'll leave it at that. But thank you, and if you have any questions,
point of clarification on our acquittal. We couldn't hear what was going on between the judge and the district attorney when he acquitted us. And the reason we were acquitted was because we were on private property and we were charged with disorderly conduct. You can only be charged with disorderly conduct if you're on public property. So we were able to prove we were on private property, and he said to the DA, because the DA objected, he said to the DA, I wanted to convict him. Believe me, I wanted to convict him, but it's the wrong charge. If it had been trespassing, they would have been in jail. So then the district attorney says, he pointed out section whatever it was, and then at that point the judge said, I didn't find mens rea, which was mens rea, which is Latin for bad mind, or bad intent. The literal translation is bad mind, but what it means legally is bad intent. So he did manage to say that, but the reason we were acquitted was because Kathy Manley, who's not here right now, was our attorney pro se, who does a number of things, especially for the Palestinian rights group. She was the one that, when I sat down to dinner with her and Steve Downs, and she looked at it and said, this is the wrong charge, came up and worked with us, handed us the citation that I was able to hand to the judge, and that's why we were acquitted. But that was the last time they had the courtesy of charging you with disorderly conduct. Now, because disorderly conduct, it's a violation, it's not a crime. It's like a traffic ticket, but you have to show up in court. Now you get a crime, now it's trespassing, which carries like 3 months in jail minimum. Just so that's the detail you didn't hear because you were in the back.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes.
As I understand what you're saying, you're working for the elimination of drone strikes. In 4 or 5 months, there'll be a new administration. Don't you fear that there'll be an increase of strikes?
Absolutely.
Either or both of those major candidates?
Exactly. Both of them. You are right on point, yes. It's true. And so that's all the more reason why we as a community, and I invite everybody to come. There's something that I wanted to mention, and that is this tendency within our peace groups to give status to some more than others. And I want to do away with that. I want to say that I'm a regular person. I do catering, I clean toilets, I take care of folks. I am no greater or less than any one of us sitting here. Everybody has different gifts. We all come to the table with different needs or different abilities, and so we go together shoulder to shoulder. There's not somebody standing higher because we went to jail or whatever. No, I did not intend to get arrested. I was down the road, away from, so I just happened to get plucked. And
After the action was over, you were walking
you have 2 minutes to move if you don't want to get arrested. I was long gone. Anyway, so just to say, let's not do that with one another, because what it does is, if you do that to me, I get lonely on this Stratus thing. And other people get like, ooh, I can't talk to her. No, don't do that. We gotta just keep it real and keep one another understanding that we're all brothers and sisters. And there's times when I can't do resistance. There's times where I have to go out and make the living or whatever, pay the bills, and other times, I mean, in this particular instance, I didn't have a choice but to let go. And I was so grateful for how the community came forward to help me float and, you know, help me pay the bills and other things. So that's the other thing, is that if you choose to, or have the space in your life to do civil resistance, just know that others will come forward to support you if you're willing to, you know, if you have the inkling to participate in that. So we are doing recruiting for another action. I will not be among them until after my case is done, because otherwise they'll yank my 5,000 and put me back in before I want to do it, you know. So
I don't want to belabor the legal point, but you alluded to not being able to trespass or have disabilities on the federal property or on the military reservation, even though we consider that public.
it's our land.
Public land.
That's right. We
But
pay-
do they consider that private? And
Yes.
the second half of that, maybe for Linda, is if they were on private property and the private person that owned that property was okay with the charges still, would they still be able to make those charges?
So,
Or is that just a general charge?
somebody want to answer? I'm not quite clear totally, but if you're on someone's property and they let you come in, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. Part of the problem was both the base commanders and the local sheriff's department and the judges and the DA and us, we're all learning as we go together. For example, them giving us 2 opposing charges at the same time. They gave us disorderly conduct charges and trespass. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either we're on public property or private property. So one of those charges has to drop. So we're learning as we go. And the base now has these tiny little signs halfway up on the lawn that says warning. And they're supposedly giving us the delineation of where the base property goes out. But you
It's like
can't
a
read
pencil.
it until you get up on the property. So, anyway, and by the way, both of those kernels that I mentioned, they're gone. So those of us that have the orders of protection for them, on behalf of them, they're null and void. Is that accurate?
We're not sure.
So, better safe
We're
than
learning.
sorry. All right, so I've got 3 minutes to 10. Is that good, John?
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
You got 3 minutes.
I was just commenting, the Pentagon has more experience with us,
Yes.
and so they have a very clear side.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you can be here, which is, it's very close, it's okay. But, as you say, they're learning that they can put on the side.
Yeah. The other thing that's been so wonderful is to go into the court. So the witness doesn't end at the gate of the base. The other part of it is our witness in the courtroom. And we've had wonderful people like Charlie and our dear friend who passed, Chris McConkey, who's done the videography. So you folks can all go to YouTube and look up the Hancock 17 or the Hancock 38 or the different Hancock actors that have testified with opening and closing statements. The body of the trial is not allowed to be filmed, but those statements are there to be watched on YouTube. So if we can learn together, and you might have points to help us out, you know, so go look. And check out our website too, the Hancock, well, it's called Upstate, oh, here's my little mnemonics that I made up. Upstate Drone, Upstate Drone Action.
Mary Ann, you didn't get a chance to talk about your actual prison experience.
I didn't, I have notes.
But I'm thinking that might be a very good talk for you to give. Maybe on another occasion, and maybe if there are people in this audience that maybe have a congregation or a community group, grassroots
Oh, not a
group,
lunch group.
who might want
Lunch
to
group.
hear about your prison experience.
That would be wonderful, and I invite you to invite me. Thank you, Ed. And I'm not the only one. Ed and many, many people. Linda is also very capable of getting in touch. John, Maureen, there's many among us that can do this. And we can do it together. Okay, thanks.